This is a case scenario of molar pregnancy that I will tell you later on. Uh, what is molar pregnancy? Molar pregnancy is mainly the abnormal proliferation of trophoblast. Okay. Embryo is form of inner mass, inner cell mass, and the trophoblastic tissue. Trophoblastic tissue later becomes the placenta, and the inner cell mass becomes the embryo. So here in molar pregnancy, there is abnormal proliferation of the trophoblast, and there is no or some development of the inner cell mass. In complete mole, there is no development of the inner cell mass, only the trophoblastic tissue is there, and in partial mole, some part of inner cell mass develops. So here it is a type of which type of molar pregnancy? This one. This is partial mole, okay, means partial molar tissues is there, partial molar tissue is there over here, and here some normal tissue, fetus and placentas, normal part is there. This is partial mole, and this is the whole of the uterus is filled with vesicles, fluid filled vesicles, that is complete mole, okay. So in normal uterus, this is normal uterus, and this is molar pregnancy. The whole of the uterus is filled with vesicles. So definition I have already told you. This is the trophoblastic proliferation, both of the syncytial trophoblast and cytotrophoblast. Because there is proliferation of the syncytial trophoblast, beta hCG is secreted from the syncytial trophoblast. So there is increased level of serum beta hCG. So for the diagnosis as well as follow up, we measure the serum beta hCG. There is edema of the villus stroma or hydropic villus degeneration. Based on the degree and extent of these tissue changes, hydatiform moles are categorized as either complete mole or partial mole. Okay. These are abnormal pregnancies, not normal pregnancies. Why these are abnormal pregnancies? That I will tell you later on. Now coming on to the how this happens. So in complete mole, there is androgenesis. Mainly there is chromosome material is of paternal chromosome material is there, and partial mole there is both ovum, also sperm is there, but here there is empty ova. Ovum is empty. Either it can get fertilized with single sperm that gets duplicated later on, or it gets fertilized by two sperms, paternal dispermy, or there can be paternal chromosome duplication. In both these cases, there is only paternal chromosome only, there is no maternal chromosome, and ovum is empty. Because of this abnormality, the complete mole develops. So the karyotype in complete mole is 46XX or 46XY. Most common is 46XX. There is MCQ question in your NEET PG, which is the most common karyotype of complete mole. The answer is 46XX. That is 90% cases. And less percent, 10% cases, it can be 46XY. Okay. And this is homozygous because it is paternal chromosome duplication. This is homozygous. Now coming on to the two types of chromosome gets, the ovum gets fertilized by two types of chromosome, say 23Y and 23X. Here also there is paternal dispermy, maternal chromosome inactivation is there. So here it is XY, 46XY. One is Y, one is X, and here only paternal chromosome is there. But because of the two types of sperm are there, it is heterozygous. But it is very less, that is 10%. Complete mole microscopically, what is there? Enlarged edematous villi and abnormal trophoblastic proliferation that diffusely involve the entire villi. No fetal tissue is there, no RBC or no amnion is there. Okay. Macroscopically, these look like bunch of grapes. Here you can, I will tell you later on, but these look like bunch of grapes. Okay. Patient will sometimes tell ki there is discharge per vaginum, bleeding per vaginum, along with some grapes-like vesicles coming out per vaginum. There is typical history of grapes-like vesicles. No fetal embryonic tissue are produced. Uterine enlargement is in excess of the gestation age, and thecal uterine cyst is treated in 30% of the H-mole cases. These are the vesicles, okay? Fluid-filled vesicles, grape-like vesicles. Complete H-mole, these are the bunch of grapes. This is also a case of complete mole, the whole of the uterus. This is also a case of complete mole. The whole of the uterus is filled with grape-like vesicles. This is the USG of the complete molar pregnancy. This is known as snowstorm appearance. Snowstorm appearance. Okay, and these are the vesicles, clear fluid vesicles. These are the proliferation of the because of the proliferation of the trophoblastic tissue. This is also a case of snowstorm appearance in a case of complete H mole. Partial mole. Partial mole in the complete mole, that was, what was the karyotype? It was diploid. What if 46X6 or 46XY? But in partial mole, this is very important question. It is triploid. Okay, 69XXY or 69XYY. Okay. Dispermic fertilization of an active ovum. Okay, there is some maternal chromosome is there. So here ovum is, normal ovum is fertilized, gets fertilized by 2 sperms. Dispermy is there, but the difference is there the ovum was empty or there was maternal chromosome inactivation in the complete mole. In partial mole, the ovum is active and ovum is normal. So here triploid is there. 69XXY is the most common. Both maternal paternal chromosome is there, but there is excess of paternal chromosome. Clearly there is excess of paternal chromosome. Partial mole, macroscopically there is enlarged edematous villi. Abnormal trophoblastic proliferation are slight or focal. In some areas only there is proliferation in partial H mole and did not involve the entire villi. The scalping of the chorionic villi and fetal embryonic and fetal RBCs are present. There is some fetal tissue or there is some embryonic tissue. Macroscopically, the molar pattern did not involve the entire placenta. Uterine enlargement is not that common, and theca lutein cysts are very rare. Fetal embryonic tissue and amnion are present. This is the partial mole. Scalping means ki eating something, there is hollowing of something. Okay. So this is the vesicles of the molar pregnancy and this is the normal placenta. Okay. This is partial mole. Just as focal area you can see the hydropic degeneration and the proliferation of the trophoblast. Rest is normal. This is the case of partial H mole. This is the molar vesicles and this is the normal placenta and this is the fetus. This is the case of partial mole that can be diagnosed by USG. Here it is the snowstorm appearance on, only in some part of the placenta and rest is the fetus is there. The fetus are mostly abnormal fetus is there, but fetal tissue will be there, normal placental tissue will be there and some abnormal molar tissue will be there. Okay, that is partial molar pregnancy. Clinical features, what patient will present as vaginal bleeding. There will be history of amenorrhea followed by vaginal bleeding. There can be pain abdomen. There can be excess of vomiting. That is hyperemesis gravidarum. Why there is hyperemesis gravidarum in this case? Huh? Which level? Beta HCG. Beta HCG level. Yes. Beta HCG level is increase in molar pregnancy. That's why there can be hyperemesis gravidarum. The beta HCG level will be more in which case? Partial mole or complete mole? There is abnormal proliferation of the trophoblast. Okay, there is excess production of the beta HCG. In which case? Abnormal proliferation in which case is more? Complete mole. That's why the beta HCG level will be more in the complete mole and less in the partial mole, but in partial mole beta HCG level will be more than the normal pregnancy. Okay, that's the diagnosis point. So in the difference, this chart is there. This is very important chart. Here you can, in short, you can see all these things. First is the karyotype. It is most commonly 46XXX or 69XXY. It is most commonly 46XX or rarely 46XY. Fetus is absent in complete mole and often present in partial mole. Amnion fetal RBC are usually present in partial mole and absent in complete mole. Villus edema is diffuse in complete mole and only focal or variable in the partial mole. Trophoblastic proliferation is diffuse and severe, slightly severe in complete mole. It is focal or slightly moderate or less in case of partial mole. Clinical presentation, how it presents as, it is totally it is molar gestation, but partial mole can present as a case of missed abortion. Patient will say she was having period of amenorrhea followed by passage of some fetal tissue or some Grips cycles that will be mixed. Not only Grips cycles will be passed, also some fetal tissue may be passed during the abortion. That's why it presents as missed abortion. Also in USG, it can be misdiagnosed as missed abortion also, because the difference is only slight. If the focal area of the plastic proliferation is only little, that can be missed on ultrasound. That's why they normally present as missed abortion. That is in early gestation, and later on obviously you can see the fetal tissue. Uterine sizes more than the date of gestation in more than 50% of the cases, and in partial mole it will be small for date, because the fetus is not grown that much, and also the trophoblast have not grown that much, that's why it will be small for date. Thecal uterine cyst will be more in the complete mole. Why thecal uterine cysts are there? And one more thing is more common. One is, I already told you, hyperemesis gravidarum. There is hyperthyroidism or thyrotoxicosis can be there in case of molar pregnancy. Also, there is thecal uterine cyst. What's the reason of thyrotoxicosis? What's the reason of thecal uterine cyst? It is 30% of cases of complete mole, there is thecal uterine cyst. Okay, thecal uterine cyst can be very large. It can be 6 centimeter, ovary size can be 6 centimeter or 10 centimeter in fact. It can be around 20 centimeter also. That is because you all know that is serum beta HCG. Serum beta HCG has alpha unit and beta unit. Okay, the alpha unit is similar to the alpha unit of TSH, alpha unit of FSH and alpha unit of LH. So, when it mimics the TSH, it can stimulate the thyroid hormone, so thyroid gland, and that can increase the thyroid hormone and it can cause thyrotoxicosis or hyperthyroidism. This is the cause of the hyperthyroidism. Why does thecal uterine cyst occurs? Because LHFSH alpha unit of beta HCG mimics the alpha unit of FSH and LH, and it will stimulate the ovaries, and that can enlarge in size, and that can present as thecal uterine cyst. Okay. These are the bilateral thecal uterine cyst. The size of this thecal uterine cyst is 7 into 5 centimeter. These are actually very large. What are the predisposing factors if ages of the extremes, very less age, less than 20 years or more than 40 years is the predisposing factor. Previous history of H-mole, vitamin A deficiency, this is very important point, and smoking. So, there is excessive uterine growth in H-mole, hyperemesis gravidarum. There can be preeclampsia, there can be embolization. These vesicles, grape-like vesicles can easily embolize and can cause pulmonary embolism, that can embolize to brain also, different parts of the body it can embolize, trophoblastic tissue. Hyperthyroidism already told you, thecal uterine cyst already told you. So, why does preeclampsia occurs? PH class has been taken, PIH or hypertensive disorder of pregnancy. In hypertensive disorder of pregnancy, why eclampsia, preeclampsia occurs? There is defective remodeling of the spiral arterioles during the pregnancy. Okay. Normally what happens, if there are arteries in the placenta, there are arterioles that will supply the fetus. Okay, during normal pregnancy there is remodeling of these arterioles and it will broaden up. So more blood can go to the fetus. Okay, But in preeclampsia or eclampsia, there is defective remodeling, or there is no proper development of the syncytial trophoblast and cytotrophoblast. That's why there is no proper remodeling, means that will be broadened up to normally, that is, this is the normal one, and that the remodeling occurs, that will be get broadened up. There will be proper flow of blood to the fetus, but because of defective remodeling, this small will be just slightly more, not what we required is proper flow of blood. But in preeclampsia or eclampsia, there is no proper remodeling of the spiral arterioles, and there is slightly say narrowing, as whatever we required broadening of this. Remodeling means broadening of this arterioles, but in preeclampsia, eclampsia, there is no broadening, there is no proper remodeling, so hypertension develops in pregnancy, or HDP, hypertensive disorder of pregnancy, develops, that can result in, or that can also cause eclampsia or preeclampsia. So here, because there is remodeling of the arterioles by the cytotrophoblast. So if cytotrophoblast is working properly, that can result in proper remodeling of the spiral arterioles. But if the cytotrophoblast is not working properly, is not doing its job, that will not result in proper remodeling. So that's the main cause, because here the main problem is in the syncytial trophoblast and cytotrophoblast. They are not working properly, or they are say in normal term, they are crazy or mad. They are vigorously proliferating, but they are not doing their actual job. So there is no proper remodeling of the arterioles, spiral arterioles in this pregnancy, and preeclampsia or eclampsia can develop even before 20 weeks. Okay, that's the reason of the preeclampsia. If any metastasis of the vesicles is there in pulmonary or lungs, that can present as cough, chest pain, hemoptysis, dyspnea, chest X-ray finding can be positive in 80% of the cases. Vaginal metastasis, irregular vaginal bleeding will be there. Hepatic metastasis will present as epigastric pain or jaundice, and cerebral headache, convulsion, paralysis or coma. These are very rare, but pulmonary is very common. So, how we will diagnose a case of beta HCG, molar pregnancy. First I told you the scenario, the first slide, there was a scenario, this one. A 32 years female, G2P1, presented in ER with complaint of amenorrhea for 3 months, followed by PV bleeding for 2 days. On examination, uterus was 24 weeks size, but there is amenorrhea only for 3 months. Okay, that is excess growth of the uterus, and vital star stable, hemoglobin is 8 because of the excess bleeding. There is anemia is there. So in this case, on ultrasound, a live fetus of 12 weeks gestation was found. Separate multiple cystic mass was found in the placenta. Okay, these cystic masses or the snowstorm appearance was found in some part of the placenta. So this beta HCG level was 3 lakh milli-international per ml. Albumin was there in the urine. This is the sign of preeclampsia. Okay, thyroid function was normal. What could be the diagnosis? Bolo. Yes, some normal placenta is there, some abnormal placenta is there. Live fetus is there. Partial mole, very good. Partial mole. But one thing is contradictory over here. The beta HCG level is more. Is normally not the case. Only in H mole the beta HCG level of this much. Acha. So what is the, you have diagnosed the case. Suppose a case patient presents 20, say 38 years female presents to you. She had 2 normal vaginal deliveries and she is pregnant 3rd time, and she had history of same 3 months amenorrhea, and she is complaining of bleeding PV. And when you asked further question, she elaborated that yes, the bleeding is not normal, bleeding is like some vesicles are also there, grape-like vesicles are also coming PV. Okay, and when you examine the patient, the BP was slightly raised, say 140 by 90, and there was pallor, say 8 to 9 gram hemoglobin. And when you did the parabdominal examination, uterus was very large, say same 24 weeks or 30 weeks around. And when you did the PV examination, you saw the grapes-like vesicles. Okay, the os was slightly open, and you could feel the vesicles per PV on PV examination. Now you ordered USG obviously, and you saw the snowstorm appearance, that is also known as honeycombing appearance on the ultrasound. Okay, so and you ordered, what you will order in the blood examination? Beta HCG, CBC, CBC, TSH, liver function test, okay. LFT, yes, and blood sugar also, and blood grouping also. And in beta CG were around 2 lakhs. So this is the case of complete molar pregnancy. Okay. So you have diagnosed, you have given the investigation, beta CG, LFT, RFT, CBC, urinary, USG, chest X-ray to rule out any pulmonary embolism, CT scan. Not, we normally don't do CT scan unless until there is any history of metastasis or features of metastasis. And HP examination, not straightforward you will go for HP examination. First you will do what, how you will manage a case. This is the proper snowstorm appearance, snowstorm appearance in the USG. How we will manage the case? The most important management, or the most the first management will be suction and evacuation of the molar tissue. In any case presents to you with bleeding PV, and you have diagnosed or confirmed on ultrasound and investigation by doing beta HCG and history, you have confirmed that is molar pregnancy, then you will straight away go for what? Suction evacuation, not dilatation evacuation. You will not use curettage. You normally don't use curettage, right? We don't use normally sharp curette in this case. Yes, because the uterus is very soft, you can easily perforate the uterus, or unnecessary curettage is not required in molar pregnancy. You will just do suction evacuation, and whatever tissue comes, you will send the tissue for histopathological examination. The diagnosis will be confirmed not on ultrasound, that will be confirmed on histopathological examination. Okay. So the main or most important management is suction evacuation. Okay. If the patient is of say 40 years of age and she is having complete mole, you have diagnosed there is complete molar pregnancy. So her family is completed. So you will go for suction evacuation or hysterectomy. What you will do? Hysterectomy. 40. Hysterectomy. Will not do suction evacuation? Actually, earlier it was told that hysterectomy should be done if family is completed, but nowadays the main motto is to empty the molar tissue, because even if you are doing hysterectomy, the chance of metastasis doesn't decrease. You can't decrease the chance of metastasis or further development of choriocarcinoma. So normally we don't do hysterectomy unless until there is perforating mole, there is intraperitoneal bleeding, then only normally we go for a hysterectomy. We normally go for suction evacuation. We will send the tissue, we follow up the patient, and then further we will manage with, if required, chemotherapy. What is the chemotherapy required? Normally we give which chemotherapy? Ectopic pregnancy, there was any chemotherapy used? Any agent used in ectopic pregnancy, medical management? Methotrexate, have you heard of methotrexate? Medical management in ectopic pregnancy. That's the same used here, but the system is different. So the main management is suction evacuation in almost all the cases. In partial molar pregnancy, obviously medical management can be used because this fetal tissue is a main part. But in complete molar pregnancy, we normally don't give misoprostol. Because the same, there will be excess bleeding PV, there is chance of embolism, because sudden contraction of uterus will be there, there is risk of embolism of the tissue, pulmonary embolism, diaphragm embolism can be there. That's why we normally nowadays avoid using misoprostol in the complete molar pregnancy. Second, oxytocin, earlier we used to give oxytocin whenever we were about to do suction evacuation. We will ask the residents to start oxytocin just 10 minutes before the procedure, so that bleeding can be decreased and there will be proper contraction of the uterus. But because that effect of the oxytocin, sudden compression of the or contraction of the uterus, there was a risk of increased risk of embolism, pulmonary embolism. That's why nowadays also we don't give oxytocin. Only thing we can give is methergine if required, if BP is normal, then only we can give methergine, otherwise we also can't give methergine also. So we can't give misoprostol, we can't give oxytocin. Okay. So after completion of the procedure, we are we normally do suctionation very gently. In normal patient, in normal missed abortion, we will do all over the uterus, we will evacuate the uterus, we will search for the different, if any tissue, remaining tissue is there or not. But in molar pregnancy, what we do, this is the uterus size is very large, we are doing suctionation. We normally take the probe and keep it just in the lower part of the uterus. We will start suction evacuation. Automatically the uterus size will start decreasing. The more the tissue comes out, the size will get decreased. Okay, that's the main thing. We don't normally go up to the fundus. At last, you can just check the uterus with the blunt curette, but we don't use sharp curettage in a molar pregnancy. Okay. So, what are the complication of molar pregnancy? Complication can be during hemorrhage. Huh? What? Is symptom. There can be massive hemorrhage because there is increased bleeding PV. That's why anemia is there normally. And when you are doing suction evacuation, there you will explain. Whenever you are going for a procedure, you will do party counseling. What you will do party counseling? Because there is a molar pregnancy, there is risk of excess bleeding PV. That's why you will arrange a blood. 1 unit, 2 unit will arrange the blood. You will not start the evacuation without any blood. You will start the evacuation if the hemoglobin is less than 9, you will take a blood, then do the evacuation. Because during evacuation there will be heavy amount of bleeding. You will have to explain the patient that there will be bleeding and you need to have 1 unit or 2 unit of blood according to the hemoglobin level. There can be massive hemorrhage. There can be early onset preeclampsia, eclampsia that I already told you, hyperemesis gravidarum, pulmonary embolism, uterine perforation. Because uterus is very soft, there is risk of uterine perforation. IUGR of variable pregnancy, if the fetus is viable, if the fetus survives the partial mole, in case of partial mole, if the fetus survives, that will be obviously preterm delivery, there can be IUGR, you have to explain the patient. There can be stillbirth, there can be preterm birth, and later on or remote complication is they can develop, the patient can develop choriocarcinoma. That's why follow-up is very important in molar pregnancy. So, normally we follow up the patient for 6 months. In normal molar pregnancy, we will follow up for 6 months. Serial beta HCG should be done, and whenever the 3 negatives are there, then you can stop the follow-up after 6 months. Okay. This is the staging of GTN. Stage 1 is, GTN means neoplasia. Okay. This is the classification. This is the gestational trophoblastic disease. This is divided into 2 parts, pre-malignant and neoplastic or malignant. Pre-malignant is complete mole and partial mole, and neoplasia or malignant is invasive mole, choriocarcinoma, placental site trophoblastic tumor, epithelioid trophoblastic tumor. These are the 4 types. Okay. Most dangerous is choriocarcinoma. So, now the neoplasia is divided into 4 stages. Stage 1 is disease is confined to the uterus. Stage 2 is GTN extending outside the uterus but is limited to the genital structures, that is besides uterus only the metastasis is there. Stage 3 means extended to the lungs or without genital tract involvement. They can be vaginal metastasis or they can be only just lung metastasis. Stage 4, all other metastatic site. So this is the prognostic scoring WHO. You don't need to remember this so much, but just a short I will tell you what the importance of all the points. If the score is less than 6, this is low risk score. If the score is more than 7, that is high risk score. So age in years is very important. If the patient is more than 40 years of age, that score will be more. Okay. If the antecedent pregnancy, whatever pregnancy was previously before the molar pregnancy, whatever pregnancy was there, that is the antecedent pregnancy. So if you think the HMOL will be more dangerous, but no, term pregnancy before the molar pregnancy is more dangerous. If the patient had a normal vaginal delivery or cesarean section before this molar pregnancy, that is more risk of development of the choriocarcinoma. Okay. So HMOL score is 0, abortion score is 1 and term pregnancies score is 2. Interval in months. What is interval? Time between antecedent pregnancy and start of chemotherapy. The more the time, the risk increases. Okay. If you will start the chemotherapy in less than 4 months, that is very good. If you start after 12 months, that is very bad for the bad prognosis. Beta HCG level, if it is more than 1 lakh, that is poor prognosis, okay, or high risk. Large size tumor, this tumor size is of thecal lutein cyst. Okay, less than 3 cm, 3 to 4 cm, more than 5 cm. Site of metastasis, lung, pelvis score is 0, spleen, kidney score is 1, GI tract, liver score is 2 and liver brain score is 4. Number of metastasis, obviously the more the number of metastasis, more is the score. Previous failed chemo, this is very important. If single drug chemotherapy failed, it is of less risk than the multi-drug failure. Okay. So what you will do, HMOL you confirm it, you did evacuation of this, you did follow up with serial beta HCG level, 6 months follow up is done. If GTN is confirmed on HP, FIGO scoring will be done. If it comes under low risk, single agent chemotherapy, that is methotrexate will be given. But high risk combination chemotherapy, that is EMACO regimen can be given. Here in high risk cases, lifelong HCG follow up is required. Serial beta HCG monitoring will be done. Relapsed and resistant disease, second line chemotherapy can be given. So this is low risk, single agent, high risk, combination therapy. If family completed, hysterectomy can be done. Stage 2, 3, single agent and high risk में combination therapy. Stage 4, combination chemotherapy is only given. Surgery, hepatic resection can be required. Radiation, cerebral metastasis. In case of only cerebral metastasis, radiation is given. What is the indication of chemotherapy? If HP evidence confirms of choriocarcinoma, there is metastasis in brain, liver or GI tract or radiological opacities of more than 2 cm on chest X-ray. Pulmonary vulval vaginal metastasis unless HCG is falling. Okay. Heavy vaginal bleeding or evidence of GI or intraperitoneal hemorrhage, then we will start chemotherapy in case of GTD. Rising beta HCG after. Suppose you have evacuated the molar tissue, then what should happen? Obviously, molar tissue is gone, now serum beta HCG serially decrease. But if some tissue is growing, plastic proliferation is still going on, then obviously the beta HCG level will either remain the same or will rise slowly. So if rising beta HCG is there after evacuation, we will suspect that this is going to choriocarcinoma. That's why weekly serum beta HCG level is required, monitoring. Serum beta HCG, if more than 20,000 after 4 weeks of evacuation, that is can be because of uterine perforation. Okay. Elevated HCG 6 months after evacuation, even if still falling. Suppose you did beta HCG level after first week it was decreasing, second week it was decreasing, 4 week, 5 week it was decreasing. Suddenly after say 3 months it started again rising. That means that is going towards choriocarcinoma. Okay, there is some trophoblastic tissue or functioning going on. Where it is because it can be proliferating, because either it can be invasive mole, either it can be choriocarcinoma. That's why follow-up is very important. In normal partial molar pregnancy, the beta hCG level will go normal in 7 to 8 weeks. In complete molar pregnancy, it will go normal in 9 to 10 weeks. So, will you stop the follow-up after 9 weeks? No. We will do follow-up up to 6 months. Okay. After 6 months, if they are 3 negative, then you can stop the follow-up. But if any positive comes or the level rises, then you will do further investigation or ultrasound or do for the activity of the trophoblastic tissue. These are different regimens. This is a single methotrexate plus folic acid is given. Methotrexate is given 1 to 1.5 milligram per kg. Okay. So, it is normally roughly comes around 50 milligram. Okay. IM or IV can be given day 1, 3, 5, 7. Folic acid is given day 2, 4, 6, 8. Okay. This single regimen in cases of low risk. In high risk, in low risk, multi-regimen is MAC protocol. Methotrexate, folic acid, actinomycin D, cyclophosphamide. And this is the protocol for poor prognosis metastatic disease, EMACO regimen. Etoposide, actinomycin D, methotrexate, and what is EMACO? CO is cyclophosphamide and oncovin is O. Okay, EMACO. The medical evacuation of the molar pregnancies by oxytocin should be avoided because of the potential embolization and dissemination of the trophoblastic tissue through the venous system.